In assessing the risks that parties are going to face if they do not reach a settlement, or if they don't reach a settlement under a mediation, what questions or what kind of actions should parties avoid to do during this fact-finding phase?
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I'd like to answer that by talking about the sort of questions that are really helpful, because that then tells you the sort of questions that aren't going to be helpful. And it's the classic open questions is what you should be asking. There are 6 words that are really useful to any mediator in finding out what happened. It is why, when, where, who, why, and how. And all of those, you start a question, well, how did that happen? Or why was that important? Or where was everyone? Or what happened next? And what you're trying to do is get the people to tell the story. And you're listening to the story, and all the time you're taking what you think are the important bits from that story and just trying to understand how you can move it forward. And what you're also doing is looking for points of weakness, so that when someone says something like, well, looking back on it, I could have done this better, or I suppose they might have misunderstood what I said, or I can see how now that might be looked at in a different way. All the time you're thinking, well, I might come back to that. So the sort of questions you don't ask are the ones which put the client into a box. You really don't want yes or no answers. I never ask for a bottom line. I don't want to know what that bottom line. I don't want to know if they've got red lines, things that they won't go over, because very often red lines that they have at 9:30 in the morning are no longer there at 6 o'clock. They've looked at things in a different way, and what was really important to them in the morning, so they thought, turns out to be less important, and there are other questions that are more important. If you ask someone for a final position, it really gives them nowhere to go to, even if actually it's not their final position, because they've adopted a position, and that's the last thing you want to do in a mediation, is to get people to adopt positions. All the time you're moving back from the position to the interest that underlay that position. And you're asking yourself, well, why is that important to you? What is it? Is there another way we can solve that interest? Is there another way we can get to where you need to go? And this can be very difficult. If you spent 2 or 3 years pursuing a particular position, to unravel that takes the time. And so what you don't want to do is to ask questions that strengthen their belief in their position. But at the same time, what you cannot do is confront it straight on, because all that does is lead to that strengthening. You've got to slightly unpick it and enable them to see it differently. And I think what you're doing is you're taking them on this journey. You're taking them on an understanding that what they've been trying to do is to get to a particular place, and there may be more than one road to get to that place. And if the road they're going down is met with a big no entry sign, then you've got to try and pull them back rather than just use a bulldozer to push the no entry sign down. And so really it's open questions against closed questions, and not boxing the client, the parties in.